What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your day. I'm still dealing with that cough, but I'm gonna try to get this out without coughing as much, so bear with me. So, yesterday was day one of the NFL draft, and everybody got to select their pick, which obviously includes the Ravens. The Ravens had the 27th pick in the first round, and they had an interesting choice here. A choice that left the Ravens flock divided in terms of how they viewed it. And in all honesty, this really feels like a deja vu moment because of the circumstances and ultimately who the Ravens chose to take. So, with the 27th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Malaki Starks, safety out of Georgia. Literally, this feels like a repeat moment from 3 years ago in the 2022 NFL Draft when it came to Kyle Hamilton. The scenarios are very similar. In 2022, the Ravens did have some positions of need. In that specific situation, it was edge rusher and it was offensive lineman, specifically because we were coming off of a year where Lamar Jackson got hurt for the first time in his career and actually missed the rest of the season. So we wanted to get a good offensive lineman to protect him at that time. And we definitely needed a pass rusher, something that we've been missing for quite some time. So people thought they were going to go edge or going to go offensive line there. Instead, the Ravens took the best player available in Kyle Hamilton, and that left people with some mixed feelings. Everyone recognized that Kyle Hamilton's a really great player and he's probably going to have a successful career in Baltimore, but we're watching the Ravens choose to draft based off of the best available player instead of drafting based off of a need. They prioritize getting the better player as opposed to prioritizing fixing a need. And that was an aspect many people felt disappointed in because they did not address a need. They chose to focus on getting the best player. Now with Kyle Hamilton, obviously it worked out. He's a two-time All-Pro safety. He's one of the best, if not the best safety in the NFL. So obviously it worked out for the Ravens. Huge success, huge boom draft pick. He worked out clearly. They chose to get the best available player and it worked out for them completely. Now here we are, 3 years later, in a similar situation. The offensive line isn't the biggest priority, but we do know that guard position right now for Baltimore isn't the best, and they are going to look to potentially get an offensive guard because that's something that kind of needs to be fixed. But an aspect that definitely needs attention is still edge rusher. They're still trying to figure out this pass rushing unit. Despite the fact that the Ravens are one of the best at creating sacks, they're one of the worst at generating pressure, and that's something that has shown up in the playoffs year in and year out. So they can't get to the quarterback when they need to in the biggest moments. In the regular season, they're able to generate a lot of sacks, but come playoff time, when you need to get to Patrick Mahomes, when you need to get to Josh Allen, they can't get to these guys. They're not able to generate pressure, and it's something that's kind of harmed them in the postseason. Even when they blitz, they're not able to generate pressure consistent enough in the postseason to get to one of these guys. So it's something many of the fan base wanted them to address. Here we are, 3 years later after doing the Kyle Hamilton situation. You're here at 27. A lot of these edge rushers, they dropped. They dropped, man. You were at 27. You had the opportunity to get any one of these pass rushers you can because they were right there at 27. And instead, you went with arguably the best player available. Just like Kyle Hamilton, Malaki Starks is arguably the best safety in this draft. So you are getting the best player available, arguably. But once again, the Ravens show that they're going to get the best player as opposed to addressing a position of need in the first round. So the reactions to this is very similar to the reactions we got with Kyle Hamilton, which is why me personally, I'm fine with the pick. I was speaking about it last night when I made my live stream about the positions of need the Ravens need to fill. I had the safety position as priority number 2. Number 1, I said they needed an edge rusher. Number 2, I said they needed a safety. You lost Marcus Williams. The safety room wasn't really filled with depth for the most part. You still had Kane, you still had Bo, but at that time, Ardarius Washington, we didn't know if he was coming back. He is coming back now. It's just the safety room itself wasn't feeling the most secure other than Kyle Hamilton. So I knew they were most likely going to get a safety here. That's why I had it priority number 2. I wasn't sure they were going to get him in the first round, but I had a safety as my second priority. So I said it's going to either be an edge rusher or safety with that 27th pick. And if it was going to be a safety, it's most likely going to be Starks. He's arguably the best safety out of this draft, and he's been connected to the Ravens for about 2 months now. People have consistently talked about Starks to the Ravens. It's been a conversation. So many expected that the Ravens were going to take a safety, it was going to be Starks. So this is not much of a surprise to see that they went with Starks out of all the other safeties. So again, they chose to get the best player available as opposed to addressing a position of need. And that's left the Ravens flock with a, how do I put this? It's left them with a myth feeling. I'm seeing a lot of people sit back and say things that they said when it came to Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, he's a great player. Yeah, it's a good pick. He's probably going to work out. But we once again choose to ignore the fact that edge rusher is a thing that still needs to be figured out. We have an opportunity to get one here, and we don't. So a lot of people are looking at this and they're just, excuse me, they're not mad. Although I've actually seen some of the Ravens flock, they are pissed off that we got a safety and did this again as opposed to getting an edge rusher, especially when the opportunity was there. So I've seen some mad, but most people are kind of just miffed. It's just like, yeah, this is similar to the Kyle Hamilton situation. The Ravens have already shown they're going to draft based off of the best player available as opposed to addressing a need right off the bat. So that's just how it's going to be. Now, when you look at how the draft actually went, honestly, I'm not too mad at the Ravens going out and getting a safety just because a lot of these edge rushers dropped to the second round. This really wasn't a first round draft where people were getting a lot of edge rushers. Not to mention, this draft is deep when it comes to these pass rushers. So it made sense that a lot of these guys were going to drop. Guys like Mike Green dropped to the second round. So it's not like the Ravens won't have an opportunity to get an edge rusher. They absolutely will. Now, what they do today, day 2 in the second round, is going to matter. I say you got to go get him now. You wanted Malaki Starks. You got the best player available. You got to go get an edge rusher in day 2. You do that, I think the Ravens flock will be perfectly fine with how things went, because at the end of the day, you would have addressed the safety need, you would have addressed the pass rushing need. You would have got the best available safety to pair up with Kyle Hamilton, and you would have got an edge rusher to add to that pass rushing unit, which is something the Ravens desperately need to get, because again, Kyle Van Noy is not going to be here for as long as, he's not going to be here for the upcoming years. He's still got something left in the tank, but we don't know how many years he has left. You cannot rely on Kyle Van Noy being your best pass rusher for like the next 5 years. We have no idea how much he has left in the tank. So they do have to start looking to fix that. Not to mention, we've never had that guy. Well, we haven't had that guy at edge rusher in such a long time. So, you know, fixing that up is a priority, and it's something the Ravens definitely have to look to do. If there's any day to do it, day 2 is the day. If they leave this day and they don't get an edge rusher, that's going to be a problem. And now I will see a lot of Ravens fans be even more pissed off about the Starks pick. Because if they can't get an edge rusher in the second round, when you've got all these edge rushers that drop to the second round, that's where the issue comes in. So we'll see. As for this Starks pick, he's going to fit right in with Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington. And basically the Ravens drafting Starks means they're going to go back to what they wanted to do all along. They want 2023 Kyle Hamilton back. They want to be able to play 2 safeties back there and allow Kyle Hamilton to roam around the defense and do whatever he wants. They did that in 2023 when Marcus Williams was playing well and Geno Stone was having a career year. They were able to have Kyle Hamilton play in the box, roam around and do whatever he wants. If he wanted to blitz the passer, he'll blitz the passer. If he wanted to cover the flat, he'll cover the flat. If he wanted to cover a tight end, he would cover a tight end. If he wanted to go one-on-one with one of the receivers in the slot, he would do so. He was able to do whatever he wanted and roam around the defense, which allowed him to be the most lethal we had seen from him. That's how he became an All-Pro in the first place. And 2023 is still his best year. Last year, he was an All-Pro as well. He was fantastic, but he wasn't able to utilize the versatility that he has as a player because he had to go back to free safety in order to fix the secondary. When they had him in his original role, they were getting cooked because Marcus Williams couldn't hold up in the secondary. So he had to go back to free safety, pair up with Ardarius Washington to solidify the secondary and to solidify the middle of the field, and it worked out perfectly. But now you draft Malaki Starks, you can go back to that look because you can have Starks at free safety, then you can have Ardarius Washington next to him, and then you can have Kyle Hamilton roam around the box, which is also going to help Roquan Smith and Trevor Simpson. So Simpson, who is expected to have, Trenton Simpson, who is expected to have a big year or have a lot of expectations put on him, it's going to be a thing. So he has to be able to deliver. He's going to be the starter alongside Roquan Smith. And last year, it was up and down. So we didn't exactly know what we were going to get from Simpson. And ultimately, he kind of ended up getting benched for a period of time. Now he has to step up. He's going to be alongside Roquan Smith, and he has to step up, and he has to make those plays. If Kyle Hamilton gets to come down and help alongside that, that's going to be a big help, which is ultimately what the Ravens want to do. So ultimately, this is a great pick at the end of the day. It's not a bad pick. It just left the Ravens flock with mixed feelings because they wanted an edge rusher, and we'll have to see what they do today. Second round, you could still get one of those guys. And if they ultimately get one of those guys, it's a different conversation. So we'll have to see what happens there. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I have to speak on with the Starks pick. I liked it. I don't have a problem. It feels similar to the Kyle Hamilton pick, and I think he's going to fit perfectly next to Washington and Hamilton. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to speak on here. We'll see how these other draft picks go over the next 2 days, and ultimately we'll probably do a recap of the draft in a few days once everybody's been drafted for the Ravens. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Be sure to stay safe, and peace out.